New episode of the podcast, Sean Widmer Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for downloading, all that jazz. I appreciate it. So I promised a couple weeks ago that these would be between 10 and 20 minutes. That's the goal. I failed yesterday. I believe I failed on Monday, and I'm going to fail again today. Tomorrow, we're going to get back to it. We're going to get back to the swing of things. Today's a long one. Today's a long episode of the pod. I sat down with my buddies Billy and Josh, and we talk sports cards and what's going on with sports cards right now. So that's coming up here in just a couple of minutes. I will let you know that there are many things I want to talk about today, but I'm going to save them for tomorrow. Tomorrow we will get back to that 10 to 20 minute range, that little chunk to get you in that drive from point A to point B, which is kind of where this podcast wants to live. The 40-minute podcast, if I'm going to try to do these 5 times a week, 40 minutes is too doggone long, I think. But again, feedback is always welcome. At Bommaruski on Twitter. You can hit me, slide into my DMs on Instagram at Sean Widmer. If you have any thoughts on the podcast and stuff you would like to see or stuff you'd like to see go, it's always in flux right now how we're doing that. So I appreciate everyone who's tuning in. Again, long one today. Tomorrow, I need to talk about Queen's Gambit. Tomorrow, I finished that yesterday. I'm hyped on that show, some thoughts on it. There was something I found at my father's house when I was picking up my daughter. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for watching Olivia so much during the week. I will forever be in your debt. But I found something there I want to discuss, a little walk down memory lane and more. But today's pod is about sports cards, which yesterday my dad did give me some of my sports cards that I've kept in storage at their house. And I say that like, my dad gave me these. He's been looking to get them out of his garage for a very long time. So a couple of my sports cards, a bunch of boxes that I have are still in his house in a crate somewhere. But some of the books, some of my books, which had some of my Griffey's, some of my Barry Bonds cards in it, I got those back. First of all, it's a great thing if you have sports cards to bust those out. It takes you right back to I don't want to get into all this stuff because we get into it in the pod, walking down memory lane with cards. But I will say this part. My cards are in such bad shape. I guess when you take cards from the States to Venezuela, open them all in Venezuela, and then you put them all in the binder, and you every single day as a kid mix up the order you have your sports cards in, from teams to alphabetical to this and that and this and that. They take some wear on them, and then you bring them back from Venezuela to the States. Believe it or not, the cards don't travel extremely well in suitcases. So it was fun to get to see these cards after talking to Billy and Josh. So let's just get into it. These are my buddies, Billy and Josh. They came over and talked about sports cards and where they're at right now. Here's Billy and Josh. And for the video portion of this, I will let you know, I'm trying to get the video working where you can see the people I'm interviewing. Today, you'll notice right now, I'm just messing around with different backgrounds. People said yesterday the moving background was really annoying. Let me know what you think of today's background if you're watching this on YouTube. I can't imagine there's a ton of action on YouTube on these, but just a little bit. And then today, there's no video of the guys because when I record here at home, I don't have a setup where there's a camera over here that films my conversations with people. So today's just a static screen for that. And that's how it's going to be for a while until I figure out if I can do video in my house. But that's how it's going to be with people who are here. My wife might come over and sit next to me real close, but she'd have to buddy up real close to me. And then hopefully the camera isn't super distracting. But today's static screen, Billy and Josh, you'll still hear the audio, but I apologize for that. Okay, let's get to it. Billy Moon, Josh Cox, sports cards. Okay, I'm excited about this. We've got a couple guys. It's what are we calling it, Coxie? Oh, you got microphones, boys. I gave you microphones. I'm sorry.
Test.
Yeah,
it's working.
I tested them all, but you can talk into them real quick. Josh Cox, hello.
Hello. How's it going?
Billy Moon, what's up?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You guys are great. Okay.
Beers and baseball cards.
Beers
That's what we're
and
doing.
baseball cards. That's the title of today's podcast. Beers and baseball cards. So we've got a couple guys who are sports guys. Now, Josh didn't play baseball.
Nope.
Billy played baseball at Gonzaga. So we got some baseball knowledge on here. We're going to talk cards today, though. But before we do that, Josh and Billy, a couple of my buddies, neighborhood guys too. Billy, why am I getting all these text messages? And Josh, were you amazed? Billy sends this 4-paragraph text yesterday about he updated his phone for the first time in how long?
So not updated. I what is it? Backed
Backed it up. Yeah.
So it had been, I mean, you get that notification, oh, your phone hasn't been backed up in X amount of weeks. Well, for me, it was 154 weeks. Weeks.
That's impressive.
Yeah. So what is that? Close to almost 3 years. I should have waited to a 3-year anniversary.
You should have figured out how many iPhones have come out in that time period.
Well, I had
think
to.
about that,
So when I
right?
bought my iPhone 8, which I proudly currently still use,
Okay.
that must have been 3 years ago because they forced me to back up my phone in order to buy it.
Well, right. And they do that.
Yeah, and the
I get
phone
it.
before that had not been backed up probably since I bought that one.
Okay. Jeez Louise, Billy. So, and here's the reason I bring this up. One, I found it hilarious that you hadn't backed your phone up. But two, and Josh, you can agree with this, Billy is the penny pincher
Yes.
in our group.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
I'm talking, we're squeezing these things until they drip copper, right?
Yep.
Like it's big
Yep.
time. So when we talk about today's topic, it kind of boggles my mind a bit.
Yeah.
With how Billy's spending habits, or lack of spending habits. Shout out Emma, the only person who spends in that house. Thank you, Emma, for being normal. But like the things Billy spends on, that's why I was interested a lot in this, because Billy never buys anything. And all of a sudden you're talking about baseball cards the other night.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wait, what's going on here? Billy's buying baseball cards. So we'll get into that in a moment. Coxie here as well. Josh, you have been the bailout for me in my life more times than I think you realize. You work at Gonzaga, and a long time ago, well, not a long time ago, but a while ago, you worked ticket office.
Yep.
And we were so lucky to get to buy tickets from you for the morning show for the tournament,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
NCAA tournament games.
Yeah. Thank Oliver Pierce for getting that all set up,
He
right?
was
I
huge.
think that was something that maybe went on before I was there. And
Yes, it was.
we just kept getting that thing rolling. What was the last one? Because I know you went to Buffalo. Was it Denver? You went to one?
So we went to the tournament in Buffalo. We went to Pittsburgh. We went to Denver. We went to San Diego. We went to Salt Lake on
Okay.
the trips.
Yeah.
And then we went to other tournaments, but we didn't
Yeah.
need to buy tickets
Yeah.
because we were just going with just
Sure.
us.
Yeah.
With the work people.
Mhm.
But the ticket purchasing one, OP, we had done it before they'd done it before with whoever was before you.
Yeah.
And then you just unfortunately took the job
Yeah,
and
it's
then you had to
great.
deal with us. So thank
was
you for
awesome.
that.
Yeah.
But you've been, you're a Gonzaga guy. And I always think it's funny. You work ticket office, which I assume has got to be the most nightmarish position at any college place because everyone wants tickets.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, especially at a place like Gonzaga, right? We're sold out for
Yeah.
every game. But you know, it's funny. Like people always joke, like in our profession, like, man, your job's got to be so easy. You're sold out. You have to sell any tickets. I'm like, well, try to manage 100 tickets. It's way harder than
Right.
you know, if you're WSU and you've got 40,000 seats or whatever it is for football, and you have 2,000 seats open. Well, you can tell everybody yes, and
That's
it's
true.
easy to fill them out. But when you've got 100, it's like, ooh, who do I say yes to? Who do I say no to? What if Mark Few needs tickets? What if, whatever,
Right, like-
the AD needs stuff.
I'm going to tell you, if Mark Few ever needs tickets, get them.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that needs to happen
Yep,
because
yep.
he's going to potentially win a national championship this year. So I believe you get
We
gold
hope.
tickets.
We better.
Yeah, he just gets a gold seat that anyone he wants to sit there, he just gets to put there in that seat.
Exactly.
Although he doesn't need tickets for the kids. Do they still sit behind the bench? I guess now they don't.
Not
but
this year, but yeah, most years, yeah, they're all by the bench, but they're growing up.
it
Right?
was one of the
So-
highlights of Gonzaga basketball fandom when
Yeah.
Fewey's kids were little. And they just had seats right behind the bench.
Yeah.
Fewey was like, look, it's my family. And
Yeah.
he's a big family guy. So this is how we work here. It's kind of one of the great things if you were selling Gonzaga
Yes.
basketball back in the day. It's like, look, we're family. You don't believe
Mm-hmm.
me? If you're sitting on my bench, there's probably a point where Joe's going to tap you on the shoulder
Yeah.
and say, can you dunk in that game?
Yeah.
You know,
But now Joe's a senior in high school.
so
right?
weird.
So,
I just
like,
saw him at the
wild.
grocery store. And I was like, when did you get tall and
Yeah.
when did you get cool? Like,
Yeah.
what happened here? Okay, so
It's wild.
a couple Gonzaga guys, but we're talking baseball today because we're talking baseball cards. Now,
Or any cards. We don't. It doesn't have to be
we're
baseball.
talking sports
Yeah,
cards.
there we
They
go.
just worked
Yeah.
with beers and baseball.
Yeah.
Josh and I are working on some Miller Lights right now. Billy is working on a what?
I've got a Canadian sample pack here. Driftwood Brewery. Where is this? Victoria, BC.
Oh, there we go.
So
I
both
was-
of you are married to Canadians, by
Yep.
the way.
Yes.
And you, Billy, just went to Canada for Christmas.
Yep.
And
And we
you-
had to, we adhered to the quarantine law, so we did it as safe as possible.
You were gone forever.
Yeah.
You were gone for an entire month.
24 days we were up there and we quarantined for the first 2 weeks. So, yeah, it was fun though. 24 days with in-laws sounds bad, but really it's,
No.
I'm in a good spot with the situation.
The
with
more
in-laws.
the more people I know from Canada I meet, the stereotype is so true that they are just fun.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's just fun across the board, or across the border, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
They're awesome. But you brought back a bunch of, I don't know if it's legal to bring back beer. I hope it is. Otherwise,
It
you're
is.
getting ratted
Well,
out right
it's
now.
it's funny because I mean I think a lot of people know the alcohol pricing is very different up there. I mean it's super expensive, but you can get 8-packs.
Wait, it's more expensive in Canada to buy beer?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Like a Coors Light, it's probably like $7 at the bar.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean when we were
Yeah. Then you get made fun of if you buy it too.
yeah.
Canadians are like, "Oh, you guys are so soft," you know. It's like,
Well, Coors Light's imported up there.
yeah,
It's an import.
Oh man. So what do they drink up there? Is it Molson and Kokanee?
actually, not really.
No, Milwaukee's Best I've seen.
Yeah, you'll
that's
see
kind of
that.
like the Bush Light of Canada. I feel like is
Okay.
Milwaukee's Best.
I'm trying to remember the other one.
Lucky's Lager.
Lucky's, yep.
Lucky's Lager.
That's
Yeah,
it.
which
Yeah.
is that's really good.
it is.
Well,
that's-
it is.
I loved it because Billy brought Josh's wife back a bunch of her favorite beer from Canada, and she was drinking it
Yep.
the other night and goes, "Oh, this is bringing back all these great memories." And I
Yep.
thought that's really cool. Like that's a cool thing that you did. They grew up in another country. I know it's so close to us now, but it is still another country.
yeah.
And we don't have a lot of stuff that they had growing up, so that was a cool. I thought that was a cool moment. I
Yeah,
love that you
little
did
taste
that.
of home, I guess.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
really sweet. Really sweet of you, Billy. That was really sweet of you. So, anyways, we got our beers. We're going to talk sports cards because I guess I want to start with this. I want to know your guys' history with sports cards. I grew up as a kid loving them. Baseball cards and basketball cards were the only thing I wanted. This is what I asked for my birthday, Christmas. My best birthday present ever. My mom had to come to the States when we were living in Venezuela. She had to come to the States for something and brought me back a box of Don Russ. Gosh, I forget what year it was. 92, 91, Don Russ, a box. So it's probably, how much is in a box? 24 packs? 32
Probably,
packs?
yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the box. Yeah.
And I remember just thinking, this is heaven. I get to open 32 packs of cards and who knows what's going to be in there. How many Bonds and Griffies are going to be in there? This is going to be great. And so I grew up just loving sports cards. So I don't know, what was, Josh, your growing up years with sports cards?
Oh yeah, I mean, probably I was like 5 or 6, you know, and started buying stuff, or you know, I'd get an allowance. My dad would take me to this card store, Card Sharks, was the name of it, you know, and I'd go there and buy like a pack, or they'd have like, you know, you'd spend $1 and you get an envelope full of like 100 cards, you know, and at that age you're just like, oh, give me whatever I can get,
Totally.
you know,
Yeah.
or you would look at a team, you weren't getting anything any good, but you know, it was kind of cool, just like the numbers. But then, you know, as you get older, you know, randomly buy stuff, and even like for me, like I probably bought cards to like 2000, I guess, probably right around the time I started high school, and kind of got out of it. But then, yeah, recently in the last probably 10 years, I just kind of picked back up with eBay and things like that.
When you were a kid, were you buying? You were buying packs when you were a kid, though.
Usually, yeah. Rarely ever would, you know, maybe I'd get a box for Christmas, or you'd go to like,
But you
Kmart.
weren't buying you weren't going to the card shop and saying, "Oh, I want." Let's see, you're from Carolina, so
Yeah.
who would have been the big East Coast baseball player back in the late '90s that you
I
would
mean,
have
probably,
wanted?
I mean, Chipper Jones. I had a lot of Chipper Jones cards.
So would
I
you
was
go
big into
buy a Chipper
basketball.
Jones? Would you go buy a Chipper Jones card, or were you buying packs hoping to
Usually packs. And I'd transition through like I'd go into basketball. You know, like I remember Fleer Metal. I don't know if you remember those cards
Yeah,
at
oh,
all.
yeah. Do I remember
when they
Yes.
came out, right? And that,
Yes.
and that was like Garnett's rookie year. You know, around the time with him and Kobe. You know, Billy and I talk about this all the time now. I'm like, man, I have so much Kobe stuff,
Man,
which is unbelievable. And like, I never really thought it was really worth anything.
yeah.
And now you go online, it's like, holy cow.
Well, I'm excited to talk about that part of it here in a second because it blew my mind. But Billy, what was your growing up with sports cards? Did you get into them, or is this a newer thing?
No, mine was pretty similar to this timeline that Josh laid out, to where like when you're super young, like you just remember. I just remember, and I believe it's just every single Target ever in the United States,
Yeah.
to where there is a half an aisle of baseball cards or sports cards, and it's the thinnest aisle
Mhm.
ever.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
it's like you get 3 people in there, and it's
Yeah.
packed. It's like
That's a
not
good point.
COVID friendly at all.
Yeah.
But like you go there, and like that's what I did too, is you just buy packs, and
Yeah.
I mean you get like 15 cards in like a $7 pack or
Yeah.
something. So there's nothing really in
Yeah.
there.
And probably less than that back when we were young. I mean, it'd be 99 cents. And
Yeah.
you'd
Yeah.
get so
Yeah.
much stuff.
You
know?
normally
Yeah.
get an insert though.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
necessarily going to be a great insert, but
Yep.
you got an insert, right?
Yep.
You probably get a handful of player cards, an insert, and then like one random card, whether it would be a coaching card or a team card or a checklist card.
Yep.
And so I loved pulling packs. Packs has always been my thing. It's why
Yep.
like these new video games have like team building things where there's packs of cards, and I'm obsessed with it because I love the mystery of pulling cards out of a pack and not knowing what's going to be there and hoping that I get something that's really cool. And then maybe it's not only is it a really cool card, it's an insert that has my player on it. Like that was sweet to me.
Yep.
But and my buying habits also turned into when I came to the States, we couldn't buy cards in Venezuela as much. So when I moved to the States, there was an overabundance of cards. So since 2000, when I go to Target, I've always bought a pack of cards. Always.
Really?
Like,
That's awesome.
I've done that. I did that all through the 2000s to 2010 and then 2010 on until about 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, actually, when I started dating my wife because I didn't want to look like a loser having a bunch of cards on my.
Yep.
That's real. And I
Sure,
didn't
no,
want
I
the
get
cards
it.
in the countertop. She's going to come over and think, what is this guy doing?
Yep.
Then I noticed in the last year, the Target that you had mentioned, their cards were gone. And
Empty
I thought, I
all the
wonder
time.
if they moved the section because it was Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, sports cards. So I just kind of noticed that, Billy, and I didn't know why. And then you guys were talking about it the other night here at my house. What in the heck is going on with the sports card market that you can't find cards anywhere right now?
Yeah.
So
COVID.
stimulus checks, yeah.
COVID and stimulus,
Yeah.
honestly.
Hang on. You're not telling me that the rush on sports cards is because of stimulus checks.
No, I mean not 100% of the rush. I mean, I think it's definitely generating more and more interest now.
Amazing.
Yeah, maybe not the Target level, but if you
Yeah.
go on eBay and stuff, like we were joking about, like when the first stimulus checks came out, was it like May? Whenever that was, like you could go on eBay and like sales on stuff were crazy.
Yeah.
Like just
Really?
it did not make
Yeah.
sense. And literally it was like 2 weekends where it just stuff was through the roof. And you're like, what is going on?
Can you guys tell me what and I guess to get into this, when we were growing up, and I'm growing up before, I'm older than you guys. I'm growing up early 90s kids sports cards. You get the Beckett.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And every card you got, you looked at, okay,
Yeah.
here is an Andrew Jones, here's an Andres Galarraga card.
Yep.
How much does that cost in mint condition, good
Sure.
condition? And you'd mark down on a piece of paper, this pack, I had this dollar amount of cards, but I knew full well as a kid, I'm never going to sell these. At least I did. I'm never going to sell them. But if I did, oh my gosh, I pulled a Leaf, my best card I ever pulled out of a pack, Leaf Slideshow Mike Piazza. And it was like $120. And I thought, this is amazing. Whoa, I'm rich. I wasn't. But sports cards disappeared in
Yep.
like the 2000s. What caused this reemergence, Billy? I mean, what goes on?
Well, I think we talk about the disappearance first. I think a lot of that, and I mean, granted, I was young, so I mean, I'm not all into the news flow and everything, but I mean, in the early, mid, and late, really the 90s, the decade of the 90s, they were so overprinted.
Yes. Yep.
So I mean, you pull these great cards.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a couple great like Randy Johnson rookie cards. They're just like, man, that has a lot of sentimental value. Like being a Mariners fan, I mean, Soto Mojo year, all that. You're just like, oh my gosh, I got a Randy Johnson rookie card. Well, then you go online and it's worth $6.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
is that? Because there were millions of them that were printed because they got so popular.
Right.
And-
Every kid wanted them.
yeah, and I think I mean all sports cars trading companies. You don't want to single anybody out, but like I think they all just like saw the peak demand and just wanted to fulfill it, and they just flooded the market.
I'll say it. Tops made too many packs.
Sure,
To-
yeah.
Tops made. I
Yeah.
feel like Tops
Don Russ.
made.
I mean, they all
Don
the
Russ
junk
was there
wax,
too.
junk wax era.
It's why.
Basically,
It's
was-
why Pinnacle was
wow.
always cool. I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember Pinnacle.
Studio. Do you remember Studio?
Yeah, and they didn't make a
Yeah.
lot, right? The packs were more expensive. You didn't make a lot, so you knew you were getting a unique card in those.
Yeah.
So it got overflooded
Yeah,
to the point where it got. Is that why it just like got overflooded to the point that people stopped buying them in the 2000s?
they just weren't. They weren't worth. They didn't carry a lot of value. So I think you took a lot of. The sports fans still bought cards, maybe not as much as they did.
hmm
And I think the investors really shied away. And really that's big money makes markets, right? And I think you take the investors away and that's where it kind of loses its steam.
Okay.
And other than that, I mean, I don't have a ton of insight of like the overall market. I don't know, Josh, if you have anything.
Well, I would say probably where, at that point, like late '90s, overproduced. Maybe more early '90s is when you were seeing that, but like just people weren't buying them, right? So then they started expanding, like, hey, let's have a card with a piece of a jersey on it,
Yeah.
or let's have autographs, because back when we were buying cards, you'd buy a Topps card, it might have like gold foil, and that was
Totally.
special,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So then it got to the point where they started limiting, rookies. Hey, we're gonna have 3,000 Ja Morant cards in this product. So it became more collectible that way. And so then I think at that point is when it started turning around. Probably honestly like 2010, 2011, and I've just thrown a number out there just kind of
Well,
from my experience.
I'm going to tell you, and the reason why I was interested in a lot of this, there's a stretch from 2010 to 2015 when I was buying a lot of basketball cards as an adult male, but I loved it. I love the NBA. And I, as a kid, this was something as a kid I couldn't buy. I didn't have the money for it. We didn't have it in Venezuela. And so I couldn't buy them, but I always thought they were cool. And now I'm an adult and I have extra money. And I thought, I'm going to buy cards. I still think they're cool. I still think it's fun. And the only thing you could buy was Panini, I think is the brand.
Yeah.
Okay, there wasn't other brands. There was not.
That's gone away.
So here's the deal. When you guys said the other night people are buying cards, I was blown away. I thought there was only Panini making cards these days.
Yeah.
Is everyone making cards again?
So it's all like league based. So like NHL is with Upper Deck, Major League Baseball is with Topps, which Topps covers Bowman. There's multiple things. The NFL and NBA, I believe, are both with Panini. But again, they have these wide array of products that they.
Yeah. So
put
when
out
you
there.
look at a card, so let's say you pull a Panini baseball card. If you know, and Josh turned me on to this, Panini or a great example that I've seen personally is Leaf. I mean, they sell baseball cards.
Yeah.
They don't have the license for MLB.
Yeah.
So you'll see these baseball cards, but you won't see a logo. No team logo.
Really? Okay.
So it'll be like, oh, Matt Allen of 30. So it's a prime example. I bought a Matt Allen card. He's a prospect in the Mets organization. And there's nothing. No Mets logo.
Really?
No MLB logo. But it's the player in the card.
For sure.
Um,
Just blurred out the logo on the hat? Is that kind
yeah,
of
it's usually, it looks like one of those $5 hats you get at Foot Locker back in the early 2000s where there's nothing on it.
Weird.
Yeah.
Okay, and here is the thing that blew me away the most of anything. And the reason I wanted to do this podcast, because in the 90s when I pulled a card, and I will never forget pulling that slideshow card, looking at Beckett and going, oh my gosh, Mike Piazza, $120. Thinking that's high end. Because the early 90s, high end, that was a high end card. That was a rare card. You guys set a card the other day that I did not know the story about it. What the heck card just sold for how much?
Well, recently, Mickey Mantle, so what year tonight? Was it 52?
Yeah, I think it was 52 tops.
And it was graded. So that's another thing that's kind of come into the picture, probably 2005, whatever. But grading the cards. So you send it into a couple, there's like 2 or 3 companies, and they'll look at it. How's it centered? How's the corners look? Like so many different variables.
Was it surface, corners, centering, and what's the fourth one?
I hate to tell you why I
Can't
know
remember.
these things.
Yeah.
I got into a weird streak on YouTube,
Yeah.
and Olivia was loving watching it because there's a lot of colors, guys and gals opening Pokemon cards.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And she would sit in front of the TV, and there's so many colors.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, at least I'm feeling this. And they would say all those things. They
Yeah.
grade them on the thing,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh my gosh, it's a Charizard worth
Yeah.
$45 million. I'm
Yeah.
like, what the heck just happened? What did I just watch? And Olivia's
Yeah.
like, oh, I threw up. But it's weird. So they talk about all these, how they grade the cards, and it's really interesting.
And that card was graded like a 9, right? Oh, out
Okay.
of a 10 scale. I think it was a 9. But yeah.
Which that's hard. And
for an old
to
card.
think like it's not a reprint, so it's a 1952.
Yeah.
To keep in that kind of condition for 70 years.
And it sold for how much?
It's a 5.2 million.
Yeah,
I think?
5.2,
Yeah.
I think.
Unreal.
Yeah.
And
Just
didn't you say there was a
nuts.
Chipper Jones that sold for a bunch too?
No, Mike Trout.
Yeah,
Mike Trout. Sorry,
Mike
Mike
Trout.
Trout rookie
Yeah.
card. So this
Yeah.
would have been more of a reason that
Yeah,
might be
2010, 2011.
the
I mean,
Mickey
it's not even that
Mantle
old.
is the old card that's worth a lot. I understand that a little bit, but I don't understand 5.2 million just in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah.
But what was the Mike Trout story? Because now we're talking about
It was
a
a
card in
whole
the last
3,
10
wasn't it?
years.
Maybe 2 point something, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, same deal. Graded card, but like a 10, so it's pristine.
Yeah, and that one I think was a 1 of 1. That was like a superfractor.
Maybe.
right?
Yeah. Something like that.
Wait, what's that word?
A superfractor.
What's that mean?
And this is another reason where they introduce more value into it is that, as Josh alluded to it, they're now numbering cards. So when you get a card, I mean, there's cards that aren't numbered, and then they have those inserts, or they have the parallels too, to where it's a different. So for example, Bowman Chrome is what I really focus on. I think it's more
baseball
on
world.
the baseball world. Yeah. So they have certain cards. So let's say it's a Mike Trout card. So they have what's called a base card that's unnumbered. Who knows how many are out there? With a guy of that caliber, probably not many. I mean, that still carries quite a bit of value.
Yep.
And then they have different parallels, what they call it. and it's up to 500 or 499, up to 250. So they make a certain quantity of these cards, and obviously, as there's less out there, they're worth more.
Yeah.
And a superfractor in that line is a one of one. So there's legitimately, that is the only card in the world.
Okay, so the Mike Trout card that sold for over $1 million. That's the only card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where it finds its value, because boys, I was wondering, because we're gonna get to you guys buying cards here in a second.
Yeah.
I'm wondering why someone would pay that much for a card. Can you, Coxie, you're the biggest collector of things like sports memorabilia I know. Can you even get me into a mind of why people are buying the individual sports cards?
Well, I think you could even flip this to Billy's world, right? I mean, it's an investment. And that card, like, if I think it originally sold for like 200,000 at one point. So I mean, its value has gone up. You know, the same deal, right? Buying a house, whatever. So kind of that same concept, you know, and so I think people are just, you know, they're celebrities. It's crazy, like the people that get into it and they have money. I mean, Charlie Sheen used to always hear the stories about him with baseball memorabilia. You know, it's like, oh, he would go and, you know, open a dresser drawer to get a T-shirt, and there's like a baseball signed by, you know, Mickey Mantle. You know, just random stuff like that. But the investment side, and a guy like Mike Trout, you know, hey, he's Hall of Fame career already, you know, long term.
He's a top. I mean, Billy, correct me when I say it and I'm wrong. I'm not a Trout fan at all. I'm not a Trout fan in any way. He's
like,
he's a top 5 player,
not
right?
a fan of him, or you just don't really pay attention to him?
Second half, yes. First half, definitely yes. I'm not a fan when I watch. I'm not a Mike Trout is not my guy. I think he's boring. I do. I think he's boring, and I think I'm a big fan of the guys with a lot of pizzazz. Mike Trout's just good.
And you're not
baseball,
alone in that. Just, I mean, sidebar there.
He also plays for a team that's against the Mariners, so he kind of wrecks the AL West all the time. So there's a lot of that.
And he hits 900 against the Mariners anyway, so it's really hard.
There's a little bit.
We saw that 2 years ago, firsthand.
But he's a top 5 ever baseball player. Am I crazy in saying he's top 5 ever?
Top ever is tough. I think he's still got more to go.
Yeah.
I mean,
his team doesn't win.
Yeah, right? I mean, it's hard
you.
to consider someone top 5 when they don't even compete in the playoffs.
Okay, how about top 5 talent?
Talent wise, could be,
because that's a different thing, right? Like if you're a top 5, I get what you're saying. Players, you need some wins behind you. Talent wise, now we're just talking sheer. Put everyone out there and hit a baseball.
Yeah, and that's a tough one too when you go all time. I mean, we've had this conversation multiple times in golf course clubhouses.
Yes, we have.
With other sports.
Trying to go, okay, top 5 all time. Well, just like the NBA has changed, maybe the NBA has changed a little bit more drastically than MLB has, but MLB has evolved as well. Yeah, I mean,
we
pitching.
Talked about that the other day, right? Guys, when we were 8 years old, you had 3 guys that could throw 100.
Yeah.
Now you've got 3 guys on a minor league team
that throw 100.
Yeah. Okay, so the Trout card, we could talk. We open the baseball. Josh, if we for you even, you love baseball, but if we open the baseball door for Billy, we're never getting out. So let's just close that real quick.
I will say, I mean, I think you and I can agree that right now, Mike Trout is the best baseball player right now.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. For this era, he's the best.
Yep.
So the card sells for a lot. Now, boys, I was amazed when I found out a year ago I couldn't find cards. Then I went this summer to buy my nephew cards. Still couldn't find them. My head immediately thought, we're in a time where cards are dead. We've lost cards. They were they were rare. They lost their luster. But you informed me you can't find them anymore. Is that real?
Oh, they're hotter than ever.
It's not because they're not making them.
Yeah.
So they are still making cards. They're just being bought out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We know a guy, actually a friend of ours, that I saw him Friday morning. He's like, oh, I just went to 2 or 3 Walmarts, and bought these cards that were out, and he paid, $400 or $500, and he's going to sell that for $2,000. Right? It's just another way to make money.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So now I'm gonna be old man here in a second, because I am old man, and I crave for young kids. Because we all of us have kids. You guys have boys. I don't know if Olivia is going to be into sports cards, but I hope she is at some point. I just know her mom too well, so it might not be in the actual cards.
Maybe they'll have
her.
sports cards of like dresses,
right? Exactly. Or that's what it needs to be. It needs to be like Keeping Up with the Kardashian or Real Housewives cards.
Yeah, Housewives cards. That'd be
Housewives cards,
good.
and we're going to be all in at the Whitmer house.
Autos.
But I want the stories of for Roman and Jackson of Dad. Can we run to the store? I saved my money. I've got $5. I can buy 2 packs of cards. please, and then come home in the anticipation of opening them, looking for, the players they love. And I hear these stories and it really ticks me off.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. And the thing is, like the guy I was talking about, his son's probably 12
12
or
or
13
His
now.
son's perfect range for sports cards.
Exactly. And so they'll do, going back to the Pokemon deal, they'll have, hey, we've got 10 boxes of these NBA cards. And they'll put it on eBay or put on these groups on Facebook that they're a part of. And it's like, hey, you can put in $20 and get, the Milwaukee Bucks. And so they'll open these boxes up and you get all the cards for those teams. And so
Okay,
his son does that. It's
I need
awesome.
to dive into this because this
It's
is
fun.
something that no one knows about, I think. I mean, this is something that I looked it up to see when on my bank account, Billy, you're the finance guy, so I'm just letting you know I looked through my bank account today. 2012 was the year that I got into this, where I would go online. There was a couple weird websites where they do live pack openings, and I would say, you'd pay a certain amount, and they'd spit out on the site I did it on. It was completely random what team you got. So they put you all in a generator. You got a number, and then that number ended up being a team. So it's like,
fun.
you get
It's
all
like
the Angels.
It's gambling, right?
Totally.
It's gambling and investing. And it's like
They open the packs live, and you get, if there's any Angels cards, you get them. What is that called?
breaking.
Yeah, breaks.
Box breaks, pack breaks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So explain it again real quick, because I don't want to skip over this phenomenon in sports cards.
Yeah. So like the big thing, it'll be like, hey, this guy bought a case of, baseball cards. We'll say Bowman. That's the hot stuff right now. And there's 8 to 12 boxes in that. So same deal. Like you put in, and the crazy part, talking about how there's nothing in the stores. Well, you can still get things like through the internet or whatever. But like for a case of cards might be $1,000.
Jeez.
And so what they'll do is, they'll have here, there's 30 teams. You buy this team's cards from the break for, $80, whatever it is. So basically there's a lot of guys like they just do it because they enjoy like the enjoyment of opening the cards and seeing what happens.
And seeing hits.
Yeah.
I mean, they just want to be able to touch a huge card.
Yeah. And they know they can't afford it. And maybe they make a little bit of money on the deal, but usually they're not making that much. I mean, it just depends. But yeah, they'll go through and you open cards and it's just kind of neat to see. And again, same deal. It's a big gamble.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you might spend $50, which doesn't sound like that much, and have, the Mariners, you're like, please God, let this one card hit.
Yeah.
But it helps a guy like us that's not willing to spend $1,000. Like maybe we hit a 1-of-1 card.
It gets you in on the action.
Yeah.
And by the way, there is truly at this point only one Mariner, I think, that would have a card worth any value. Like you say, you want the one Mariners card. Not only do you want the one Mariners card, you only want like the one player who might actually be value of the Mariners. Do they even print Mariners cards anymore, Billy?
You'd be amazed.
They do. Yeah, no, they do. And it's actually, so when you talk about Bowmans, I mean, those are the baseball cards that are, I would say, carry the most value right now.
Yeah, right now for baseball, absolutely.
And Bowman, I mean, they're not printing Marco Gonzalez's or Mitch Hanigers or major league guys. They're doing the prospects.
Yep.
Prospects
Really?
are where all these,
it's like buying penny stocks.
Yeah.
Except these penny stocks are really expensive.
they're not pennies.
So here's the deal. As we get close to wrapping up here, I want to get into this part of it because Billy, you are as Josh and I know, you're the penny pincher. So when I heard you're involved in this, that means that there's some value. There's some value to it. It's more than just the fun of sports cards. So how are you approaching this? How are you approaching your love for baseball, your favorite sport in the world, like the thing you excelled at, played collegiately? How are you approaching this with also then financially getting into it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where I guess I am a penny pincher, as everyone calls me.
You're just really smart with your money, but because you're smart with your money, the rest of us who aren't, we need to talk down on you in some ways.
So I think the reason I'm
we're jealous.
The reason I'm okay spending on baseball cards is from a financial aspect. I don't spend money on anything else, so I can.
That's pretty good.
That's true. That is true.
But I think secondly, I mean, when you talk about it, I mean, obviously baseballs have been a massive part of my life, and when we talk about baseball cards, why baseball cards? I mean, you hear it all the time, especially from those you marry, that you're just like, baseball cards, really? Are you 7?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I kind of want to go back to when I was 7.
Yeah.
There's that sentimental value
Life
of
was
just the
easy.
baseball cards. Yeah, there's sentimental value of the baseball cards. I mean, when you talk about baseball cards, what comes to your mind? It's standing in Target when you're 7 years old with your dad. Or there's a story. I mean, we were out family camping trip in Bend, Oregon. My dad and I were playing catch when I was like, I think I was 11 years old, just right by the river. And random guy comes up to me. He says, you like baseball? You like baseball cards? Oh, yeah. He goes, you going to be here in 20 minutes? I go, well, yeah, I think so. So he goes back, comes back. He comes back with 4 boxes of cards. It says here.
No way.
Yeah,
That's pretty
So it's
cool.
like those are the kind of stories, and just like it takes you back to those times where you're just like, wow, those are fun stories to
Yeah.
tell. And it's a little different now. I'm not just wanting packs of cards. I mean,
Yeah.
you target certain cards, and there's an investment aspect to it and all that. But
Especially on the prospect side or rookies.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's certain ones like look at the NBA now, right? Last year, Zion and Ja, you can't afford those guys. But maybe there's somebody else you're like, that guy's got potential. Maybe Brandon Clark before his season before he started killing it, like, oh, there's a guy you can probably buy for $1 or $2. And then if you wanted to sell it for 10, 15, $20, you can make money back on it. But
How many packs do you guys have unopened that you're sitting on to try to sell down the road?
I open all mine.
I have 3 boxes, I think, that I bought over the summer.
Because it's big. That's big money.
Yeah.
That's big money.
And I'm just banking on, I need one of those rookies in those boxes to have a good year and get hot, and you sell it, and in worst case you just sell it and make your money back, which is fine. But if you make money on it, great. I bought a box for $50 like earlier in the summer and sold it for 400, right? And so then it just kind of fuels your.
You bought a box this summer for 50 and already sold it for 400.
Yeah.
Billy, that is called, what kind of trading is that called when you just buy something and then immediately sell it?
Well, what it's actually called is smart. No, but that's. I mean, and then those are the kind of the golf shots, when
Exactly.
when you're frustrated for 17 holes and then you hit one really good shot and that's what gets you back on the round.
Yeah.
Then the next weekend. I mean, those are the stories there. I
Yeah.
mean, for me, I'm not going to open up a card shop. That's not my
No.
deal.
Right.
I mean, if I can break even, it's free fun for me, right?
Totally.
But it keeps you in baseball. It keeps you in another whole different world that I really didn't get open to until after college, was the prospects and the minor leagues. And it's like, obviously it's there and you know about it, but man, there's so much that you can learn. And we were just talking about podcasts earlier this week, and I'm not tech savvy, so I'm just getting into the podcast.
You just updated your phone for the first time in 3 years.
Yeah,
Good
but
Lord.
there's 10, 12 accounts that all they do is talk about MLB prospects.
I love that.
So it's like, it's just, that's another cool aspect. It gets you more in it's like baseball fan on steroids, because then you try to picture yourself as like, okay, well, if I'm a GM, what am I looking at with these prospects, and how do I build my farm system? And that's another aspect of cards too. That's a lot of fun.
Okay, and then finally, I ask you guys, this is something you're going to want to do with your kids. You have boys who are probably going to grow up looking at dad's stuff and going, well, I would like to get involved in that. Do you think there's going to be a time now? Are we in a situation where we're not going to be able to take the kids to Target and on our Target run, pick up a pack of cards and get excited to open it on the way home?
I think that's going to go away. Especially once we kind of get through all of this COVID stuff, which God only knows how long that'll be. But once that happens, I think we'll get back to some normalcy, and a little bit of the card bubble will burst, right?
Mhm.
It's so out of control right now. Like you go talking about like those boxes at Target, they're $20 and a guy sells them for 60. It's just like, doesn't make sense. It's only going to last so long.
And it's just a rarity thing at this point, right? Is that what it is? Is it just a rarity at this point?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. And I think the card companies as well have realized that. The card companies, because they're still selling it. You buy it initially for $20. They're not making that huge margin.
No.
But they also realize that the demand is there, so they're relevant in everyone's eyes. To where I think they learned their lesson in the 90s.
You're trying to find the middle. They're trying to find the middle of the X on the graph.
Yeah.
The supply and demand X, they need to hit it right in the middle, where they are being bought as maximum amount as possible.
Yeah.
Still keeping guys going to every single
Oh,
Target and Walmart to try to buy all the boxes up.
Yeah, and
It's
I think
crazy.
I'm with Josh on that. I think there will come a time where it'll be a lot easier to get packs. But then again, I don't know that it's going to be a car ride to Target. When you look at just the world as it is right now and the shift to e-commerce, the acceleration to e-commerce, it could very well be baseball cards too. Because the packs I bought this year were all online.
Yeah.
So
that's
it's
the stuff
like,
I bought.
so
was
I think
online
it's
stuff.
the excitement's going to be there, but where you buy it, it may not be a car ride. It just might be 2-day shipping.
Okay.
Yeah.
I told you guys I'd keep you for 20 minutes. I kept you for 35. I
We can
apologize.
keep going.
It felt like 2 minutes when you talk about this topic.
I leave you with this. The best card you have right now is...
Value or sentimental?
You know what? Let me go both, Billy. Let me go
Okay.
both. Let me go your favorite card. So there's your favorite card you have. So we're talking sentimental there. And then the best card you have, collectors, that money card.
Ooh, that is tough. Man, I think one of the like most sentimental cards for me, which is it's kind of cool and kind of goes back to stories with like your dad and stuff. I remember, so it would have been like 95, 96. So what am I, like 9 at that point? And same deal, go to the card shop. I'd have $5 or whatever. And the guy there, this old man that worked the place, he'd be like, hey, I've got this football card in or whatever, these different boxes in. I remember my dad like, hey, let's get, this guy's like, well, it comes with this one card per box. So we don't know what it is. And I think he sold it for like $20. He was like, hey, $20, you guys can open it up. And it was this like really cool, like John Elway card. But the same deal, I got a pack from that same box of cards, and in it I got a Terrell Davis rookie, which when Terrell Davis like blew up with the Broncos, this card, like again, one of the rare cards.
Yeah.
You get it graded. I mean, it was selling for like thousands of dollars. Like when I was
Jeez.
younger. I remember going to a card show, didn't want to sell it because just like, man, this is a cool card. And then Terrell Davis got hurt and all that stuff. It's probably not worth near what it used to be. But that's kind of one of those where it was like sentimental, and like I can go back to a time I was with my dad.
Yeah.
We were at this card
So you still
shop.
have that one?
Oh yeah, still have it.
Okay.
Still have the Elway. God, most valuable card though, it's tough. Like I like a lot of stuff like autographed cards, right? And
Mhm.
that's what we're always trying to get. Like I have this one I bought kind of in the last few years. It's of the Blue Jays prospects, and it's signed by like, remember Vladimir Guerrero, his son, who's with the Blue Jays now, and
Do you,
Craig
okay, I
Biggio's
know
son's on
I'm
it.
dumb,
Bichette, yeah.
but I know
I
Vlad Guerrero Jr.
Yeah, well,
like
that's true.
my
That's true.
baseball
You're a
knowledge
football-
is
or a
poor.
basketball guy.
I'm a basketball
Yeah,
guy, and
yeah.
we joke about how my baseball knowledge has slipped. But yes, Josh,
Yeah.
I do know who Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. I've
Yeah.
seen his highlights. He can smash, right?
Yeah,
So we're
yeah.
good there.
Yeah. So I bought this card, online, Tops actually, and you know who I buy a lot of stuff with on there is Big Ed. Our buddy
Oh,
Big
really?
Ed. Yeah, we'll text
He's a
each
big
other.
baseball guy.
Oh yeah, it'll be
Lord.
like, hey buddy, they're selling these at 9 a.m. and we'll sign in. And I got this one, and they must have mispriced it. It was like $100 card, and it's selling for 1,000. But
Jeez
I should
Louise.
just sell it now. But for some reason I'm
Sell it to
holding on
Eric. Make Eric buy it.
Yeah, I
Say,
should.
Big
I
Ed,
should.
I am opening my shop at 9
Yeah.
o'clock, and you owe me $1,000.
Yeah.
All right, Billy. Most sentimental card, best card.
Probably my best card is I've got a 62 Tops Willie Mays.
That's cool.
And when we talk about grading cards, it's not in the best shape. I mean, if I could get a 6 out of it, that would be great on a 6 to 10 scale. And it's probably selling for like $250, $300
absolutely.
on
That's
eBay
awesome.
right now. But I mean, it's a pretty cool card just to have it from 62.
Yeah.
And then probably the most sentimental card.
It's a piece of cardboard from 62.
Isn't that-
That's
isn't
so
that- yeah,
awesome.
That is
Yeah.
pretty cool.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
It's wild to think
80
about.
years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
60 years old. I
Yeah.
can't do math.
No, it's
Whatever it
60.
is.
it's wild.
It's a long
60
time.
years old.
The fact that you can make out that it is a baseball card after
it's
all this
wild.
time is pretty cool.
All right, sentimental.
Sentimental
I mean,
card. It actually might be worth something too, but actually, I mean, all these cards. I mean, my dad's involved in everything, but this particular card actually goes back to my high school baseball coach. We had a really good connection right away.
Go Titans.
Yeah, go Titans. Don Ressa, awesome guy. Just a stud. I mean, I don't know how else you could put it, but he, as a graduation present, gave me an envelope with a card in it, and it was like a 90-something, early 90s Fleer Kirby Puckett,
Ooh.
and it's signed.
Oh, that's really
Whoa.
cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
That's
so-
awesome.
And it's like, and we didn't talk about this, but it's not a certified
Sure,
auto.
yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
he actually signed it, which is
Mhm.
shocking. It's actually worth less than a certified auto
Makes
card.
no sense.
Yeah. But it's autographed by him too. And then when you look at Kirby Puckett, like,
Yeah,
I mean, no
everything
longer
went with him.
here,
Yep.
just a stud in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I think that's probably my most sentimental one that
That's
I have
cool.
a true story to attach to it, and it's a pretty cool card.
I love it.
Mhm.
One day I would love to get together and look at all the cards.
Oh yeah.
One
Oh,
day we
that's-
need to do that. That'd be a fun day.
yeah.
They are open and visible at my place.
Okay. That'd be a fun day to hang and just look at cards.
Yeah.
Walk down memory lane.
Yeah, I went through stuff the other night, just like, man, what do I have here?
Yeah.
And you start like, oh, I don't remember buying that. I was
Yeah.
texting him like, I have a Devontae Adams rookie card that I probably bought for like $1,
Yeah.
and it's like, why,
Yeah.
but now look at him as stud receiver.
Stud.
Really
Yeah.
cool,
Because you have the foresight. That's
Wow.
why. You have
Yeah.
the gift. Josh Cox.
He knew.
has the
Gambling,
gift.
He knew.
gambling.
All right, we got to go. Boys, thank you so much for coming and spending time. Let's talk again on this thing about
No,
something
this was fun.
All right, you guys are the best. We're opening cards soon. We're gonna do cards someday.
That would be fun.
We'll never buy actual cards because we
Yeah.
can't afford them, but we'll look at the ones we used to be able to
Yeah,
afford.
there we go.
All right, thanks,
Deal.
guys. Okay, there they are. Billy Moon, Josh Cox. Appreciate them taking a big chunk out of their time to come talk sports cards. I hope that was enjoyable for you. It was very enjoyable to me. It was one of those where I said, okay, guys, I'm going to steal you 10 to 20 minutes. And then I looked down, it was 35 minutes. We still talked for a couple more minutes after that. So to their wives, to Emma and Sarah, thank you for letting me steal your husbands in the middle of the day when I'm sure they were supposed to be hanging with the kids. So thank you for that to the wives of the neighborhood. Okay, tomorrow, just me on the pod tomorrow, unless something crazy happens. And then Friday, there is a guest on Friday, and that will be coming up, again, 2 days from when you might be seeing this one. Podcast world is weird. You could listen to this whenever you want. It's kind of the fun of these things. But if you are listening daily, that's kind of what's coming up for the rest of the week. I'd beg you and I'd pray that you go subscribe to the podcast, and on iTunes, if you could leave a review. We've got the ongoing goal to try to get to 100 reviews by the end of 2021. So if you can go on there and do that, that would mean a lot to me. Thank you for tuning in. The ways to get a hold of the podcast: on Twitter at Bommarewski, on Instagram at Sean Widmer. Yep, I got different handles on 2 different platforms, so you can go ahead and deal with it. Or just don't do anything with it at all. Have a great day. I pray that today is a safe day. The day I'm recording this, let me look, it's 4:53 a.m. on the 20th of January. It's Inauguration Day. So I'm hoping and praying for safety today for everyone. It could be a wild day. It could be a very normal day, but it's a day that I'm unsure of that at this point in time in the day. So I hope that everyone has a safe day when you're listening to this, and I will talk to you tomorrow.